I am getting married in the middle of October to my boyfriend. We're planning on a smaller scale wedding with mostly just friends and family. And considering that we both have large extended families, it was definitely a challenge planning for that many people. With our small budget, I was looking at redesigning or upcycling a wedding gown instead of having to devote a huge amount of money towards a brand new dress. I mentioned my plans to a couple people and was in the process of looking at options when my mom's oldest sister's daughter, my cousin Megan, reached out to me. Megan got married in 2015. The marriage didn't last very long, and they got divorced soon after. I barely remember the husband, as he never came to family gatherings, and Megan and my mom aren't particularly close. So I was surprised she was offering something so important after a long time of distance. Regardless, Megan offered to give me her wedding dress, as it was in my size, and she knew we were trying to avoid spending a crazy amount on a small budget. I loved the idea, and the dress was beautiful. I did make sure she was comfortable giving it to me rather than loaning it, and she assured me that it held no emotional significance, and she couldn't care less if she didn't have to hang on to it. I thanked her and took home the dress. One thing about me, however, is that I am a very chaotic seamstress, and I make the majority of my own clothes. And while I did love the original dress, I wanted to make some small changes to the hem and neckline to fit the theme better. The original dress was super full-skirted with a long hem, and since my wedding is outside, I wanted to make sure it wouldn't be dragging in the dirt. So I took some layers off the underside, removed the trim, and removed the sleeves to tighten the bodice. I was so happy with how it turned out, and my mom and friends agreed that it was perfect. Here's when the trouble started. My mom had taken a picture of me trying on the dress and decided to send Megan a picture alongside another thank you. However, she responded with a cold comment over text and called me later that night. She said that I should have asked her permission before ruining her dress, and that if I had thought it was so ugly before, I should have bought my own. I tried to explain that the changes I made were small and that I did ask before I took it if she wanted it back afterwards. She blew up at me saying that it was too different and that she could never wear it again, even though she never gave the impression that she wanted to. Megan has already stated before that she has no interest in getting remarried ever. I asked what she wanted me to do, and she snapped at me that it was too late. She hung up and has apparently been telling people I slutted out her wedding dress and made sure I would embarrass her by outdoing the original dress. I don't know what to do about it. The wedding is way too close to consider making myself a dress, and I have my heart set on having something unique and personal for my wedding. Her mother called both me and my mom, saying I should have asked, that I am a spoiled brat, and for taking advantage of Megan's kindness and generosity. My parents and a few family members who I've told think I should uninvite Megan and just wear the dress, but my aunt is saying I would break Megan's heart unless I find something else. Should I give up on my dress and see what else there is? To provide some context and answer some questions, Megan and I are not super close from both the age gap and different lifestyles. Megan, being the first girl child in the family, grew up with a lot of expectations and pressure and ended up marrying a very religious and controlling husband. After her divorce, Megan went through what can best be described as a breakthrough and reevaluation of her life and ambitions. Since then, she completely changed her job, appearance, and opinions. She is no longer an active member in family events and only takes part in important ones like birthdays, funerals, and weddings. Despite this, we have never had any problems between us, and our interactions have always been civil and kind. Secondly, the alterations I did were only limited to the skirt and bodice. The slutted out comment apparently stemmed from my removal of the sleeves, turning it to a sleeveless top, and raising the hem to a T-length. My ankles are exposed now. Someone had pointed out to me that Megan's anger was a product of her own self-esteem, as she has naturally grown and gained weight since then, which I could definitely see even though she is still beautiful. And thirdly, I am definitely planning on regular updates if any more incidents happen up to the wedding, and a full breakdown with photos after the ceremony. Thank you to everyone for their kind messages and loving support. You've all made me feel so much better, and I appreciate you taking the time to comment. As of yesterday, I found out from my fiancé that Megan had reached out to him with false concern about how my home-style dress gave the wrong idea about our wedding, and had the audacity to ask him, the man I've been in love with for nearly 3 years, if he was sure he wanted to marry a woman who wouldn't put in the effort of getting a proper dress. She says this as if I hadn't spent weeks sewing the dress to make sure it was perfect. Thank goodness my fiancé wasn't upset by her attitude and responded that I had put way more effort into the dress than she put into her marriage, and that shut her up real fast. She turned around and apparently has been crying to my elderly grandparents, her mother, some of the other cousins, etc., that I am a trashy intimacy worker with a cheap shotgun wedding. I'm not even pregnant, with a fiancé who is only interested in our family's money. My fiancé is a mechanic, and regardless of the fact that he is doing really well and makes a pretty good salary, she still seems to think he's beneath her. Some of my older cousins, the ones I don't talk to as much, have actually expressed concern about whether or not they want to go to the ceremony at all. I blame my aunt for spreading misinformation, which I managed to assure them wasn't true. After all of this, I reached out to Megan, saying that because of all her comments and insults, she is no longer invited to the wedding. I admitted that I was sorry for the situation, but I can't keep pardoning her rude comments on what is supposed to be a happy time in my life. She snapped that she wouldn't show her face at my pathetic excuse for a wedding, and that she can't wait to see how I act when he leaves me. Overall, I am pretty confident that Megan and my relationship might not recover, but at this point, I don't regret anything. Here's hoping everything else cools down in the next couple of weeks, and I can go into our day with no negativity at all. Now for a few comments. Commenter 1. Wear the dress, invite the cousin, use the pieces of the dress to make a decorative pillow for your rings, and present it to her at the reception as the best cousin ever for gifting you the dress. It will be a public moment, and you will never hear about it again. Let's start with the post. Hi everyone. I made a post on this subreddit a few months ago about my wedding dress and all the surrounding drama that came from it. I had been given my cousin's old wedding dress from a failed marriage and altered it to better fit the needs of my ceremony and my style. She did not appreciate the changes and became very rude and hurtful. My wedding was 6 days ago, and I am happy to share how it all went down. I am still so happy with how my dress turned out and was very glad to have shortened the train, as there had been rain the night before and morning dew on the grass. The shorter hemline saved me a lot of mess and damage in the long run. Plus, I felt beautiful, and it made such a special day all the more amazing. I had told my cousin, Megan, that her behavior was rude and unnecessary, and that I did not want her bringing her unpleasantness to my day. However, her mother, who had been one of her primary supporters, had apologized in order to go to the ceremony. So while Megan herself was not actually at the wedding, I had not completely excluded the issue. Megan's mother, my aunt, is your basic senior white woman and usually expresses her opinions in a loud and unspoken manner, so I was uneasy in the beginning when she arrived. She didn't make a fuss throughout the ceremony, though, and everything went smoothly. I sneezed while walking down the aisle, but that wasn't anyone's fault in particular. The reception was at an outdoor garden where we had set up under a gazebo with a temporary floor for tables and eventually dancing, with a slightly elevated platform for the big table and speeches. This is where my aunt decided to make sure everyone knew about her daughter's dress. After a few speeches, following my friend's champagne rendition of "That Time We Went Camping and the Tent Slid Down a Hill," she made her way up to the podium. She started her speech in the usual, unassuming way, congratulating us and remarking on how far we've come as people. Unfortunately, she decided to tie this statement into a comment of, "You've even made your own dress." I mean, not really, actually, it was Megan's first. She then went on into how she remembered shopping for the dress with Megan for her own wedding and going on and on about how it was perfect and made for her. At this point in the speech, I was just staring at her in confusion, while my husband and everyone else just sat there awkwardly waiting for her to be done. She finished her speech with a half-assed backtrack to me, looking lovely and wishing us good luck on our marriage. She ambled back to her seat and let the ceremony keep going, looking entirely too proud of herself. Other than that, the only other trouble she caused was her apparently showing everyone she could manage a photo of the original, which is really not that bad in the grand scheme of things. I am so happy that my family and friends were able to be there and celebrate with us, and can't wait to see what comes for us next. Thank you again to everyone who commented and reassured me in the beginning. You've all been so kind. Who knows? I might even dye the dress another color and keep it around just in case an appropriate event comes up. Now for a few important comments. One commenter asked, "When you got the dress, did you get permission to alter it? Perhaps there might have been an expectation for it to go back to her when you were done with it." I responded, "I did. I mentioned in my original post that I had asked specifically if it was mine to keep, and she agreed. That was a big worry of mine in the first place, but she told me she had no attachments to it." Another commenter suggested, "You should reach out to your aunt and thank her for making a speech showing her support of you and your marriage. You got so many compliments on the work you did to the dress after she pointed out that you did all that yourself. Everyone was super impressed by the before and after pictures, so you wanted to give her a personal thank you." Lastly, a commenter noted, "Once someone gives you something, it is yours to do with as you wish. If she didn't want you to alter it in any way, she should have put that condition on the gift. Then that way you could have refused it since it wasn't as you imagined your dress to be. You weren't wrong, and your aunt and cousin need to suck it up and never mention it again." Am I the idiot for demanding a full redo after the plasterer turned my kitchen into a biohazard zone? I'm having work done on my kitchen. It was going okay until yesterday afternoon when the plasterer showed up. He has done nothing but complain and mutter under his breath. Apparently he doesn't like the tea I have, doesn't like my dogs being in the house, and is annoyed by the appliances in the kitchen. He mutters constantly, swearing under his breath about everything. I don't know if he's having a bad day, but it's irritating and constant. If I complain to his manager, he'll just get more passive-aggressive, and I can't handle it. I'm fed up. Now for a few comments. One commenter suggested firing him. Then I replied that I wish I could, but he's part of a larger contract team. I spoke to his manager and asked if someone else could finish the work. I'm having my kitchen done, and the plasterer seems not so great. He's part of a larger team. I walked past my kitchen and saw an absolute mess. I know it's a process, but there's plaster dust and stains everywhere. How do I get rid of the plaster dust? I'm vacuuming constantly, but it doesn't seem to help. What's the best way to remove the white plaster stains? I've tried various cleaning methods, but they come back once dried. What should I do about hard clumps of plaster? Soak or chip them off? I might be panicking, but it would be nice to know how to handle this. I have been having work done on my kitchen through a larger company. Everything was fine until the plasterer showed up. He didn't want to do the job and kept complaining. I contacted the site manager, who assured me he would be moved to a different job, but he wasn't. I came home to find him peeing into his plaster mix. I screamed at him, and he zipped up, looking shocked. I told him to get out, which he did. I called the site manager again, and now I want all the plaster removed and redone. They said it would cost extra. Am I overreacting? I don't think I can prove he did this before, but I don't want to take the chance. I'm in shock. Who does this? Now for a few comments. One commenter said, "Classic. If real, classic. If fake, classic. Either way, that dude pissed in your plaster." I responded that it's real, and my house is now covered in piss plaster and dust. It's a nightmare. One day, it will be a funny tale to tell, but it's too real right now. Another commenter mentioned an episode of a show where something similar happens. I replied, acknowledging the coincidence. I didn't. I was very polite. I first met him on Thursday, and within 5 minutes, he was complaining that he didn't like my choice of tea bags, Yorkshire tea, they're a staple, and that my coffee was shite. Kenko, One of the site lads had to take him outside at one point on Friday because he was complaining so loud and banging about. That's when I complained about him and asked if his manager could replace him, which he was supposed to do, but didn't. And now I have pissy walls. Now for a few comments. Philosophical Catman asked, general curiosity question. Are they allowed to use your bathroom? In no way defending his actions here, but as someone who has been in construction before, many homeowners would straight up refuse to let the hired help use their washrooms. So many of you may be surprised to find out pissing in a bucket is actually fairly common. I would say you aren't overreacting necessarily, but also it could legit be a giant misunderstanding. There really isn't any proof that he would be using that bucket for the next plaster mix, or that he was intending to wash out the bucket afterwards. Then OP replied, they were more than welcome to use both the downstairs toilet and upstairs bathroom. I'm very working class. Not that that makes a difference, but I would never, ever expect anyone doing their job to be treated anything less than a human being. I bought them refreshments and snacks, welcomed them into my home, tried to make their experience as pleasant as possible, and they repaid me with peeing in my kitchen and possibly pasting it on my walls. Now for some additional context from another post by OP. Today is my last day in work before I am being put on temporary leave because my employer can't afford to pay me. Allegedly, it's only for a month, but I don't think I will have a job to come back to. My clothes are damp because my dryer is being a jerk. Earlier this week, I caught the plasterer doing my kitchen pissing in the plaster mix. In my kitchen, the plaster, which may have been put on my walls. So I have had to deal with the outcome of that for most of the week. It was a whole thing. I made a post about it. Plus the plasterer was a bit of an arse before that too. I'm really cold. Then a commenter, Little Yellow Diary, said, you're the person whose plasterer pissed in their plaster. I feel like I am meeting a celebrity. OP responded, 'Tis I, the lady with the pissy walls. You can be one of the first to know. Reddit helped make it right. I told the owner I had posted about it and the post was getting a lot of engagement. What would happen if I posted the name of the company? He sent round an environmental hazard cleaner the next day. Lovely guy. Usually does crime scene cleanups and chemical stuff, so was incredibly professional. My house has never been skewness. We are now in discussion of how he can make the rest of it right. Am I the idiot for calling out my boyfriend's friend for ruining my Indian dessert and then being told I'm the problem? My boyfriend, male 28, and I, female 22, met at work 2 years ago. Technically, I was working part-time during undergrad and he was a customer, but after a couple of months, we started going out. I really love this man, and nothing has happened on this scale before, so I'm very confused about it. My boyfriend has a very tight group of friends. I am well acquainted with them and their girlfriends. One of them, Dave, just is married to Ellie. Fake names. Ellie is an excellent cook and often hosts dinners, and everyone brings a dessert to those dinners. I am the youngest in the group, so most times they brush off my requests for contributing or bringing in a dessert. However, the last time I asked Dave and Ellie if they wanted anything extra like wine or some sweet dish for dinner, they said I could bring one of those sweet dishes I make for my boyfriend. I'm Indian, and even though I can't cook as well as my mom, and I'm, in a different country for studies, I called my mom up and had her teach me properly how to make a specific Bengali sweet, which is my favorite. I had my friends taste it, and they said it was great. My boyfriend ate some and said it was excellent. Except, last night, I greeted Ellie and kept the dish in the kitchen. When the food was brought out and my boyfriend told everyone I made it, I saw that someone had added cinnamon powder to the sweet. You never have the sweet with cinnamon powder. The dessert tasted like cinnamon, and I felt horrible. Though everyone said thank you and it was good, I think my face gave it away, and my boyfriend took me aside and said that Ellie had told him that my sweet looked too white and thought some cinnamon might bring some color into it. I don't know, I just felt awful, and I started to tear up. My boyfriend then defended Ellie and said that his friends already think I'm a child and not make a big deal of this, and we will talk about it. I told him. Ellie asked him first, Couldn't he have told her not to add cinnamon to the sweet? He told me he didn't think it was a big deal and asked me to drop the topic on the way home. I didn't text him good night, and this morning he said he was sorry and said my crying made him feel like an awful person. I don't know. Now I think I overreacted. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments. When asked about the dessert, OP said, "Thank you," but it was rosogala. I even had my mom ask our local sweet shop what quantity they used for the sizes of rosogala. I had managed the sweet to taste a lot like the sweet shop, so that's why I was so upset. If it tasted bad, I wouldn't have cried. Another commenter suggested OP should have asked at the table why cinnamon was added to the dessert, saying, not in a shout, complain way to make a scene, but to make it clear your dessert was spoiled and your contribution was pretty much sabotaged. OP replied, I didn't want to embarrass Ellie or my BF. Plus, I didn't know who added the cinnamon during dinner, and I was too upset to even talk. A different commenter questioned OP's boyfriend's behavior, asking if he often treats her like a child or defends his friends over her. OP responded, I usually just hang around my boyfriend's friends during these dinners. I admit I feel a little left out because they all have been friends for so long, and I'm from a different culture, but they have never said any outright offensive thing to me. My boyfriend doesn't treat me like a child. He mentioned before that due to my age, his friends see me like a much younger sister. So I guess that's why he said it. I don't know. I'm kind of rethinking his words. Another commenter made a cultural reference, to which OP replied, there is no way am I going to tell this to my ma. She already has reservations about my BF due to the age gap and the fact that he is not Bengali. But thank you. Your comment cracked me up. A lighter comment from OP. I know. I was horrified. And I had to eat it and act like nothing happened at the dinner table to not cause a scene. Traumatized by cinnamon rasogala was not on my bingo card this year. The top comment said, BF saying everyone thinks you're a child, and him saying we'll talk about this later, is him telling you he thinks you're a child. Girl, tell him you're tired of hanging out with judgmental old farts, and you're going to go find people younger and cooler to be with. Please don't think this guy hung the moon. Now for the mini update. Ellie saw the post. My boyfriend texted me to see if it was me. I said yes. He said we needed to talk. For safety purposes, my best friend will be here. I don't know, I never expected my post to blow up. Now for the update 2 days later. He said he needed space from the relationship. I think with the way this post blew up and what happened because of a post, I should clear up some things. I never asked if I should leave my boyfriend for this. I asked if this was an overreaction, my crying. But having thousands of people tell me this was racially charged, Ellie wanted power, my BF is shitty, etc., my brain went haywire. BF called yesterday, and when I got there, his house with my best friend Dave and Ellie were there. Ellie was crying, and Dave looked really pissed at me. My BF told me to sit down, and Dave started with, how could I make a post that most of the people in the dinner party would recognize and know, and could shame Ellie and my BF? My BF was silent and wouldn't even look at me and was only shaking his head. It felt like I was a kid, being scolded by my parents with my elder sibling disappointed in my actions. That is what I felt, and it looked. I admit it was very spineless of me, but Dave went on for like a minute and I was just looking at my BF waiting for him to defend me. I asked Ellie, why would she alter my dish after telling me to bring an Indian dish? She said she thought Indian food would be brown. This woman has more Indian friends than me, and she thinks Indian food is brown. She grew up in the UK, FFs, and I felt so defeated. The comments, my friends, and people around me telling me his friends came first to him, not me. He said he didn't think the sweet was a big deal. I told him I would never let my friend alter something he spent 3 days learning, getting people to taste it, and got his mom involved in. He saw I put a lot of effort into it, so why let her alter it? Why couldn't he ask me? Ellie started to cry and say that she wasn't being discriminatory, and she wouldn't know that I put effort into it, and now she couldn't host dinners again. I said I used fake names, so why does it matter? Unless she and Dave went around telling people. BF told me he didn't expect this from me. My best friend piped up that he expected that my BF would have a f***ing spine. so I guess they were both disappointed. My, I guess now ex-boyfriend told me in front of Dave and Ellie that he needs some space. I told him to get lost. I don't know what my best friend said to him after that, considering I left my ex's flat. I kind of tripped in the metro station, so now I'm crying on my best friend's couch with an ice pack while his boyfriend keeps giving me peach schnapps, and my relationship has toppled over. I wouldn't have stormed out had he looked at me once. He just looked 100% on Dave and Ellie's side and acted like I was the one with the problem when she caused me hurt. If his friends come first when they cause me hurt, where would I have been if I decided to marry this man? My friends are good to me and are acting like I'm some fragile glass. I even heard my best friend and his brother whispering loudly from the kitchen, and his elder brother wanting to threaten him via Insta DMs. I hate that this has come to this, considering I have always been the mom friend to my friend group. I'm drunk while writing this, so have some grace in the comments. Also, if you'll be an incel like those people in my DMs, telling me I'll never keep a man if I'm this dramatic, please go away. I just thought I needed to update. That's it. Thanks, guys. Edit. Guys, this is the first time I've faced what y'all have been calling racism. To be honest, I didn't see Ellie putting cinnamon into my Rosogala as racism. I was just hurt that my days of hard work were ruined. That's it. I understand I need to work on my self-esteem and not let people walk over me. My best friend's elder brother, he's a doctor and is super pissed at my ex right now because he didn't know what happened, booked an appointment with a therapist he knows, as he thinks I need mental help to not normalize aggressive behavior. I'm sorry for ranting on Reddit, but I guess that's where I am. Both my best friend and I will be going. He had been there for some time before, and the situation is tense at home because Dada, Bestie's brother, didn't know what was happening and tore my friends a new one for not protesting when Dave said stuff to me. I still haven't told him it was over a Reddit post and that I'm writing here. I feel awful and I don't know how to tell my mom she was right. I wish I never went out with him. One of my ex's friends from the dinner party asked me if I really left my ex over a dessert. So I guess that's what he told people. It hurts. I know it shouldn't, but it hurts. I think it is partially my fault. I shouldn't have let myself be treated like this. There were signs and I ignored them. And now I think I'll never have another relationship because it feels like a horrible, anxious feeling. Now for some comments. A commenter said the older brother, who is a doctor and is taking the time to make sure that your mental health is okay, sounds like he cares more about you than Dave or anyone at the dinner party. I responded, he does. Never doubted that. He is also very mad at me for drinking too much and at his brother for hiding the fact that my ex was an asswipe. I actually am grateful to him and my best friend for being a very strong support system. Another commenter mentioned that brown Rosogalas exist in India too, and they're not as sweet as the white kind, so they prefer the white ones. I replied, I was thinking of making gur Rosogalas. They are brown and tastier in my opinion. I think maybe if I had made them, this whole mess wouldn't have happened. Someone else was curious about the dessert that takes 3 days to make and asked for a recipe. I explained, it does not take 3 days to make. I practiced 3 to 4 times, and because I'm not a professional sweet maker, it took me almost 6 hours all 3 days to properly make the chana, or the correct amount of cardamom to put into the milk for a little cardamom taste. It takes a lot of time, and you can find a lot of YouTube videos on Rosogalas. Another commenter suggested dating Dada, or the best friend, noting that Dada knows how to treat a woman and seemed royally pissed at what happened. They mentioned that going as far as to get therapy is more than just family. I responded, my best friend is gay and is very much in love with his boyfriend. That's the reason he was in therapy for some time. He has faced homophobia in our home country and needed counseling, and that's why his brother is overprotective of both of us.